What is up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys have an amazing day so far. Like always, if you're new to the channel, I want you guys to hit the thumbs up, and only if I brought value to you guys through this video, ruining the video, I want you guys to the subscribe icon. For today's video, I have not done a Rust video in almost a year, and actually a little bit over a year. So I'm super excited to get back into Rust. Now, despite all the hype being kind of down at this point when it comes down to Rust, I decided to hop back on and do a couple gameplays here for you guys. Now, this is technically a two-part series. I decided to hop onto a 5x server. This is not a vanilla server or any regular server. It is a 5x. So it's a little bit easier to build, a little bit easier to do PvP and to get weapons and stuff like that. But without further ado, we're gonna dive right into this gameplay and kind of give you guys a little bit of a storytelling along with the gameplay in general. Now, this is not super high on PvP gameplay. This is mostly trying to build the best base in order for me to be in the most defensive position, because I am playing solo in a clan server. Most of the people within this server are playing in a clan anywhere between 3 people all the way up to 8 people. So I'm playing solo in this server, and I decided to just kind of build the best base that I could with as many auto turret as possible, and ultimately, propel any sort of raiding team that will be pushing towards me at any given time. But stay tuned for quite a bit of PvP. Right off the back, we already got hit by a naked, pretty much trying to steal our loot that we got straight out of Outpost. So this is something like this you're gonna see quite a bit, is people just fighting each other. This is roughly a 300 to 500 population server, so it is a pretty massive server. Right off the bat, the goal here was to create a base near an airport where I can ultimately hit the monuments, as well as hit this road that is rich on resources such as weapons, scrap metal, and stuff like that that I can use in order for me to buy more auto turrets. So I tried to find the best spot possible for me on top of a hill where I can oversee this little road as well as the airport, and be able to position myself the best way possible in order for me to successfully hit the roads and hit anybody that's on the road. Once we managed to get our foot on the ground and ultimately create our first initial base, and then ultimately put a little self of ours in the map, we decided to go outside in order for us to find some scrap metal and just one weapon in general in order for us to be able to PvP more. But the goal of the scrap was to ultimately convert that into the workshops, level 1 all the way up to level 3, in order for us to continue to upgrade the base and ultimately create a compound, which we needed a level 3 workshop for. After returning to base and putting in our loot away, we ended up actually going back out and seeking some resources in order for us to put down our first furnace and actually prepare for the next following days and ultimately the next phases of the game. So this is a 5x server, like I said, so things move a lot faster. So I wanted to just craft and prepare for the future battles. We ended up meeting our first neighbor, actual friendly neighbors in a sense. So this was actually pretty interesting meeting other individuals within the nearby area that did not just shoot me in a sense.
Thank you.
I honestly did not expect to get rolled onto like that. This is probably one of the where we really started to see some action and see how the clans worked around this general area, because this was definitely a very hot spot, mostly because airport was right there, and then you had outposts right there. I had some humongous base nearby me, and it was the clan movements around this general area was huge. I just didn't really quite see it. I heard constant gunfights, but at this point I actually started seeing them cruising around me and moving around. So this is where I really decided to it was time for me to just work on the base more in order for me to make sure that I don't just openly get raided.
I didn't even realize who. Well, I didn't even see who was that killed me. What's that?
We finally went for our first outpost run in order for us to have enough scrap in order for the level 1 workshop as well as all the way up to level 3. So this was one of the most important part of the building phases because it allowed for me to upgrade the base and continue upgrading the base just by being able to constantly do scrap runs and things like that, just thanks to the actual road and the location that I'm currently at. We made it back to base safe and sound. Now this server does have a TP, or you're allowed to TP to outposts and back, which at this time I didn't know about being able to allow back to base yet. But I just managed to just run all the way across back to base from outposts, and I didn't obviously not get hit, so it's actually pretty fun. But also in base, we managed to actually finish upgrading the base to full metal sheets, as well as putting down level 1 and level 2 workbench. Now some of you might actually wonder as to why I had both of them set up at the same time. One of the main reasons why is if somebody for whatever reason decides to take away the side of the actual building, they're still gonna have to go through the workbench in order for them to go inside the actual base. So that's why I usually use them as defensive setup, not so much as to the utility aspect of it. We were just short of a few scraps in order for us to get to our level 3 workshop. I wanted to create a compound which involves having those heavy stone walls. And in order for you to have those heavy stone walls, you need a level 3 workshop. So I decided to make another scrap run, and from the scrap run I had made just enough for me to have the level 3 workbench, as well as to start putting our compound down, in order for me to be able to continue upgrading the base without having to worry about getting shot in the back every 5 seconds. So it made it a little bit safer for me in a sense, especially against those huge clan. Now, the walls are not impenetrable. They can easily just climb over them. They will take some damage from the walls, or they can just simply blow them up with just a few rockets. But at the end of the day, if they did any of those choices, I could actually defend the base a little bit easier, and I can prepare / know which location they're coming from. Nobody can just sneak in from behind. Despite the ground being very unstable and being on top of a hillside, I was still able to do a full 360 compound setup, which allowed me down the road to ultimately have enough towers or auto turrets set up in a full 360 degree. So this is something that, for the defensive aspect of it, led to a lot of benefit for me, and actually really just helped out in a sense because I had the view of the full airport as well as the actual road itself. At this point, really what we needed to focus on was getting the auto turret prepared, because by having a compound, it really attracted a lot of attention, mostly from all the clan guys as well as anybody that flew over from outpost towards the airport or anywhere else really that's not a huge compound. It was usually a base that you can naturally hit on. So I wanted to go grab more scraps, and I ended up actually finding an enemy, or somebody that ended up just opening fire straight at me. So at this point it was just a full-on fight, and it was just best luck of the draw in a sense, which I did get extremely lucky on this fight. In this case, I had to actually fall back quite a bit because I was so exposed out in the open. I had to kind of make it a run for it to a nearby house. Luckily, he didn't have the aim to shoot me right in the ass. But at the end of the day, this is not something that you would want to do. I just don't have the skill set in order for me to shoot at that much of a distance yet. So my best bet was to retrieve back to a base and just kind of wait it out in a sense, whether he pushed up to me or whatever decision it was, because I was still not aware if it was just one person or if it was two people or even three in this case. So I just decided to kind of just sit back and wait a little bit, see what the actual location was and where he was really shooting from, because I was just returning fire without having any sort of actual seeing where he was at.
Works.
After securing this kill, it was honestly probably one of the proudest moments that I've had in a while. Mostly because I don't really have that much hours in this game yet, so I don't have the control of certain weapons yet. So being able to just get somebody killed like that, especially from so close, it was a little bit easier for me in a sense. At the distance, he was definitely in the advantage. So my hope was that he would push up in the open like he just did. So by doing so, I ended up actually grabbing him and taking him down. So this actually allowed for me to grab all his loot, upgrade the base, and just keep it going in a sense. I went for another recycle run, at which point I was able to actually get my initial 2 towers, a lot of turret in a sense, in order for me to prepare the defensive aspect of the base. Now for day one, I really wanted to have at least 3 floors set up on this base. The base was going to be just enough floor in order for me to have a full 360 view of the general area, having a sniper floor because I am playing alone. So if I do get hit or raided in a sense, I can actually counter the raid from the rooftop and not just have to come out of my compound in order for me to fight people in the open, especially not a team of 4 to all the way up to 8 in a sense. I managed to upgrade the first floor and getting the second and third floor ready for the actual future occasions here. Which really the purpose of this base was to have a heavy defensive base to counter any sort of future attacks. Now I did expect to be attacked overnight or whenever I would be logged off. So this is why I needed the auto turret in order for me to actually protect the base when I was offline. After finishing upgrading the level 2 or the second floor and preparing for the third floor, I decided to go for another scrap run to acquire some more actual auto turrets. Now at this point, getting auto turrets, I already had 4 set up. I really wanted to have a third floor so I can put the solar panels in and just kind of just wire everything properly before I logged off for the night. I ended up the night setting up with the auto turrets and preparing for the next following day. Now this is still day 1. This is within the first 4 or 5 hours of me playing. Like I said, this is a 5x, so building was a little bit easier for me, and really it's easier for anyone really. So I was able to have 4 auto turrets put down and just really build up the defensive aspect of the base, which at a day 1, unless hit by a massive clan, is very difficult for anyone to actually hit your base when you have auto turrets set up. To my surprise, waking up the next day, I was actually pretty impressed by the fact that we didn't get hit. We survived the first day and we ended up actually surviving our first night on this server. Now this population on this server is roughly about 500 when you count for the active and the sleepers. There might be actually a little bit more, and the clan maximum is 8. So thankfully there is no 16 clans. We see 16-man clan, but still it is a massive server, and I was actually really happy that based on just how much of a busy area we are in, we were able to actually survive our first raiding night. I went back for some more scrap runs and ended up actually grabbing a SAM site from the outpost. Now at this point the base only has about 3 floors. I wanted a little bit more because I still don't have a clear view of the airport or the actual roads. I wanted to add additional floors. which is why I kind of wanted to hold on to the SAM site, because as soon as you put a SAM site down, you're gonna have a lot more attention, because it shoots down any planes that flies over the base. And airport is an extremely busy air base in a sense. Everyone goes there to do scrap runs, and everybody goes there to hit the road and stuff like that. So having that anti-air site on my base allowed for me to have a better defensive position, as well as to hit anyone that will fly over with plenty of scraps on their body and be able to go loot their body as soon as they're crashed, in a sense. Now, not everyone dies as soon as they get hit by a SAM site, but in most cases, sometimes they do, and if they don't, I can just hop on the actual rooftop and just finish them off with my M29s or my sniper rifle. The 2 wasn't so much of an eventful time. It was more of a upgrading the base and getting the defensive position secured, preparing for the future aspect of the game. Where, to my surprise, on day 4 or in day 3 in this case, we ended up actually waking up to some fairly new neighbors. On day 3, we still had our base intact for most part. Now, like I said, our new neighbors decided to build, or someone decided to build 2 raiding bases to the right of us. In this aspect, pretty much they tried to push in on us. The outer turrets did propel some of their fighting aspects, along with other clans actually assisting and coming in to fight those guys, because I'm guessing they will probably just, rival clan in a sense. My enemy or my enemy is my friend. So in this case, they decided to just firefight just along the side of the base in a sense. But they did hit quite a bit of the side of the base. They did destroy 2 of my turrets. So I had to replace those, along with making sure that I acquired more turrets to prepare for the future raiding aspects. We went back out despite all the fighting and decided to just kind of join in on the fun. I continued to grab scrap along the road despite everything and despite all the clans fighting each other, and despite my new neighbors really. And I decided to just kind of keep going and trying to just fight my way through things as much as possible. Now, I wasn't very successful at times, especially not against the clans in a sense. But it was still a lot of fun nonetheless. It's just being able to actively fight and participate within the server aspect of things, all while holding on to my base and be able to continue to upgrade the base was it was a very eventful day for me. On the bright side, the defensive aspect of the base still did held fairly well. Like you can see, there's a lot of people trying to fly over to the base, and sometimes I even had people jumping down from their plane onto the base, but the outer turret finished him off, which is why I really wanted to set up the best defensive position I could to ensure the safety of the base. I didn't have anything really in particular because mostly I'm a solo player, so any weapons that I had that was additional that I would not particularly use, I would recycle them and really just convert them more into turrets. So the goal here was to just cause as much trouble in the center of about 6 different clans, and they were just in a constant fighting stage where really just everyone just kind of used my base as a middle fighting ground.
The fuck? I didn't even fucking see you.
After getting killed at this point, I decided to pull a James Bond move and try to sneak up behind him. But this was really just kind of interesting because at this level of the gameplay, on day 3, everyone already had an established base, so everyone was just out seeking just firefights in a sense. So finding scraps and being able to continue to upgrade the base was a little bit more difficult. I just at this point was just nothing but fighting, and this is where really the fun started to be, where it started to become even better. I chose to respawn back on base and just grab some of the weapons in order for me to push back into the fight. I had more than enough weapons that I really didn't care if I lost any more, because I really just didn't use half of those weapons anyway. So I chose to just kind of push in with just whatever I had and try and grab my loot back. Unfortunately for me, I ended up actually losing him, and I wasn't quite sure as to where or which base he ended up going to. I kind of had a little bit of a mindset as to where he finished up at, but it was not actually his base. I don't know whose base that was, but I ended up getting flanked by somebody completely different.
What the fuck? Where the fuck did you come from, that guy? Can't even hit me down.
Fortunately for me, one of my neighbors actually shot him off from his rooftop. Unless it was that he just bled out from me. I'm not quite sure as to what happened to him exactly. But I ended up grabbing all his loot and found my body. I initially thought that my body was already looted, probably by that base that was right next to us. But no, fortunately, my loot was still there, so I was able to grab my stuff back and then just run back to base despite all the gunfires. At this point, I already knew that the day 3 was just going to be firefights left and right. So I really just wanted to focus on grabbing as much scrap still because I was actually not able to grab too much with me. Most of the stuff that I did acquire was mostly from killing other individuals who were out there and then decided to open fire on me. So this was just kind of like a very successful day in some aspects, but yet I also ended up dying quite a bit throughout the day because you can't win every single fight. You're gonna have some losses here and there. I refilled my SAM sights mostly because it was shooting down so many planes that I was kind of concerned that I would run out of ammo before the end of the day. I put a total of about 600 rounds into the SAM sights throughout the last really 3 days, and I was down to roughly about another maybe 270, 280 left on it. So that tells you how many rounds it has shot throughout the time. And this is not counting the days or the nights that I was sleeping in a sense. So this will tell you that it was a very busy area in general when it comes down to all the fights in general. No matter how many times I went back out to fight or ultimately to find more scrap in order for me to continue upgrading the base, I was met by clans and I was met by other teams. So I just kept going down. I couldn't obviously kill all three of them, especially now when I was going to bleed out anyway. But I did do as much damage as I could, and I just decided it was time for me to just kind of do what I do best. It is roof camping. I know some of you might not like this at all, but I did decide to kind of make their life miserable to a lot of the different clans that were in the general area and looting the actual road, both to the road and the airport, and just kind of just snipe for a little bit and get as many kills as I could from that rooftop. So people would stay indoors more and allow for me to go back out and actually get the loot that I needed to get.
This motherfucker is lagging crazy.
After roof camping for a bit and ultimately getting quite a bit of kills here and there, I decided it was time to ultimately go back down. This road this was finally empty. People decided to stay indoors more, and it was time for me to go back out and finish looting up so I can upgrade the base before logging off for the night. Unfortunately for me, not everyone decided to stay indoors. I did still have a couple of people here and there within the road, and we ended up fighting it out. But fortunately for me, in this case, I actually won most of the fights, and I did not just lose all the loot that I had with me. After dropping off all the loot, I decided that it was time for me to go check out one of the clans nearby who just started a base that day near the road. And that's one of the clans that actually kept hitting me when I was hitting the roads. So I decided it was just probably time for me to visit them and just kind of check out their base. Now, but this time it was fairly late at night, so I didn't think they were on anymore. A lot of people started to log off. So I decided to just kind of like go check it out real quick before I go to sleep. But they were just like, I suspected they were not on at that point. So I just headed back to base, did a couple scraps run, and then just recycle, and then I just logged off for the night. If you guys have watched this far, I'm super thankful for you guys. And if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you hit the like and subscribe icon. And ultimately, really just go down in the comment section. Let me know who you are so I can really thank you guys for the time that you spent on my videos. Now, I will be doing a part 2 to this video, and as well as doing some just full PvP Rust gameplay. I will be doing multiple different games here in the near future. I'm currently still waiting for my new PC to come out here or come to me here within the next 2 weeks. So we'll be doing a review here of Digital Storm as soon as I get it within the next 3 to 4 weeks here. So I'm super excited for that new PC. Announced that gets delivered. I will be going back into live streaming full time for you guys, as well as providing as much content as I can for you. So if there's any sort of game that you want, I know some of you already mentioned Ark and want me to try out Ark. I will be doing that as well here in the near future. Right now I'm just kind of on the standby waiting for that new PC to come in. So thank you all so much for watching. If you're watching to the very end, make sure you hit the thumbs up, make sure you hit the subscribe icon if you have not, and I want you guys to write down in the comment section ding, just D-I-N-G, ding, and then I will make sure I pretty much know that you guys watch until the very end. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time, and have a wonderful day.